Florida Panther fans, it is game day. Game one is tonight at FLI Live Arena at 7:30. In this edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, it is a Panther Parkway Roundtable discussion based on the series coming up between the Florida Panthers and the Washington Capitals. We're going to be joined by the guys of PantherParkway.com to be chatting about this series, all on today's episode of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast.
You're Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome to this Tuesday, May 3rd edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez from PantherParkway.com, and you can follow me on Twitter at Monoman12. Follow the show account on Twitter at LO_FLA Panthers. Don't forget to also follow the national show Locked On NHL and the Crosscheck NHL show with Andrew Berkshire and Mary Clark. They'll be covering all the postseason activities around the National Hockey League. So, Cats fans, it is finally a game day for the Florida Panthers, a postseason game day, mind you. Game one is tonight, FLA Live Arena, 7:30 puck drop, ESPN 2 on people who are outside the region for Florida Panther fans. So it is now 3 straight seasons now for the Florida Panthers, if you count the COVID bubble in Toronto, where they are participating in the dance. So we all know the storylines. 26-year playoff drought, President's Trophy for the Florida Panthers, a turnaround from a few years ago. And the Florida Panthers are looking to win their first playoff series since the 1996 season. And in this edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, I'm bringing in two familiar voices of Locked On Panthers, and maybe there'll be a few of them joining along the way on this edition of Locked On Panthers. It is the Wednesday and Friday guest hosts of the show, Nick and Jacob. How are you boys doing tonight?
Oh man, I am so excited! I cannot wait for this series to get going. It's been forever since we've been waiting for a series like this.
I gotta admit, I'm tired. I'm tired of waiting. Everything for this season has led up to this point, and can't wait to get this going and prove everybody in the league that we're the real deal and that they're going to go all the way this year.
I'm hoping so too. Everything that the Florida Panthers have done this season has had quite a bit of national media perspective saying that they are so bought into the Florida Panthers. A lot of people like them as a story about how fun they are as a team, that we who see them every day can be a little bit spoiled with how much, especially how great they are offensively. I mean, over 4 goals a game. I mean, probably like the best offensive season in the last 25 years. And Huberdeau just 3 points off, 3 assists off breaking the record for wingers set by Jaromir Jagr in 96. So just so many great things about this Florida Panthers team and what they've been able to do. And everything is looking to be set up for what's hopefully a long postseason run for the Panthers. But a few team news for the Florida Panthers before we start with discussing about this first round series is that the Florida Panthers have signed 7th round pick Santtu Kinnunen, a 2-year entry level deal defenseman from who played his most recent season in Liga, which is the team that Alexander Barkov owns out there in Liga. So congratulations to Sasha Barkov on winning, on being part of an ownership group that won the championship in Liga, and congratulations to Santtu Kinnunen. Hopefully I pronounced that right. But getting to the Florida Panthers, Aaron Ekblad, that's the first topic I want to get to, guys. He's back. He's been a full participant, and Andrew Burnett hasn't given a 100% confirmation on whether he's going to play or not. Guys, he's playing game 1. Your thoughts? Start with Jacob.
Yeah. When we heard about the injury originally, it was week to week. I think we all kind of knew the idea was to get him back for game 1. It was never guaranteed, but now that he's practiced as a full participant the past few skates with the team, oh man, it's hard not to get excited. It's hard not to be thrilled about that. You get that Uyghur-Ekblad pair back together. Sherratt can take on less responsibility, focus more on the defensive side of things. It's going to be, it might take him a little bit to get the rust off, but man, you're adding a Norris Trophy caliber defenseman back into the lineup on a team that's already been on fire. Can only imagine what he's going to do for that power play. And yeah, this is big time. This is equivalent to the Lightning getting back Kucherov to start last year's playoffs. It's that big of an impact.
And we'll go with Nick.
So the power play has definitely been something that has been of concern. I know that a lot of us in Panther Parkway are not huge fans of the 5 offensive player power play, just because it just didn't seem like it was clicking. And on top of that, there was a lot of, odd man rushes, going the other way. And I just believe it just left a, salty sentiment there. But having Ekblad there, who is our power play quarterback, I think will pay dividends. And I think we're going to see a lot more mainstream of the power play, shots from the point. And hopefully, a player who is, that we brought in to, play these type of games, Patrick Hornquist, will be able to, get in his office and pot a couple of goals. So I think Ekblad makes everybody better around him. And, it's what a perfect time to do that than game 1 tomorrow.
Yeah, and I also think about how where we were this time last year versus where we are now. When Aaron Ekblad originally fractured his leg in Dallas last year in that collision with Asa Lindell near the end boards, the diagnosis was that the earliest that Aaron Ekblad could come back at that time was the Eastern Conference Final. We were counting the weeks and looking on the calendar, literally like counting. It's like, okay, Florida gets past these first 2 rounds, Aaron Ekblad is back. Now, it's such a better feeling that it's game 1 and we don't have to wait all the way for 2 rounds. So, because even without Ekblad, that series between Tampa was just they challenged them, especially at even strength. And of course, when the Tampa Bay Lightning got on the power play, I mean, that's where you kind of miss Ekblad as well. So the fact that they're getting him right from the start of the postseason, I feel really good about it.
Yeah, and Armando, we're talking about a Panthers team this year that the depth in the lineup, especially on defense, it's Sherratt, it's Montour, it's Forsling, it's Gudis, it's Haig, it's Carlson, who's played well. This is not a team that's relying on Keith Yandel to shoulder the load. It's not relying on Anton Strawman to handle top pair duty anymore. The depth is there behind Ekblad, and now getting Ekblad back on top of it. This team, I think if this Panthers team had played last year's Panthers team in a series, they probably win that series in 5. This is a team that has Reinhart, Giroux, and the veteran depth is miles ahead of what we had last year.
Yeah, and I think about how as much as we didn't want to see Keith Yandel bought out, and of course the situation called for it, just think about how much of a crutch it would have continued to be if they were continuing to do that streak. And then, you played all 82 games, so we have to start you in the postseason. We have to put you on the power play. And that means you have to allow them to get a friggin' rush to going the other way, which we saw a lot last year. Now, me, and I'm sure you guys feel way more at ease that there's going to be less of those shorthanded opportunities going the other way. At least I feel good about that.
Yeah, I think the defensive units have definitely come together. I think Ben Sherratt has come in, after having a couple of shaky introduction games, has really solidified himself in the unit. It took him a couple of weeks to get used to it. I mean, coming from Montreal, who finished dead last, and then coming over to a juggernaut like the Panthers, it's going to take some time to understand, assignments and different players' techniques and everything. But I feel much better about this defensive group going into the postseason than I did last season. And it's not just based on how many goals we're scoring and everything. It's can the Panthers play that game where, hey, maybe they're only going to be able to score 1 or 2 goals a game, and are they going to be able to win those games? I think over the last couple of weeks, as you guys have seen, they've really kind of tampered down on how the chances that they could have offensively, and wanted to play more of that defensive minded game, more of that control game that they're going to need to be successful in the postseason.
Mm-hmm. And definitely, it's a trickle down effect with the lineup for sure. When one big part of your team is back as well, and that's what Ekblad is doing, being back with this team. So we talked about a little bit about the power play with the Florida Panthers being with Aaron Ekblad being back. It's funny how even though it was a five forward unit, the Florida Panthers still found a way towards where their end of season averages on the power play was inside the top 5. Never thought that we would see that after how horrible they were after December, but what a great improvement for this Florida Panthers team. And speaking of power play and Ekblad in it, my guess is, as far as how quickly the power play can click with him back, I think they get a power play goal in game 1 with him back. I think it's going to take a few periods. Maybe they'll take one. They'll get 1 or 2 opportunities early on. Maybe have a little bit of a hard time getting through a little bit. Get accumulated to each other again after almost like a month and a half, 2 months around there for Ekblad being there. But I think somewhere in the third period they'll get one with Ekblad being back, and it'll just be whether it's Ekblad scoring or not. I think everyone's going to go up to him and just give him a hug and say, welcome back. What says you guys?
I'll take this one first.
Yeah, go for it.
I'll do one better for you, Armando. I think the first goal that they score this postseason is going to be on the power play, and it's going to be either assist from Ekblad or it's going to come off his stick. I just think that he has that kind of influence on the team and that kind of effect on everybody. And, I think the Panthers will have that opportunity, if not early in the first period, about midway through the first period, because I think they'll be dominating play, causing the Capitals to take a penalty. And then I think they'll be ripe for the picking.
Yeah, I agree. I think Washington is a team that they've got some guys who can be a little bit undisciplined. One of them wears number 43. It's only a matter of time before we end up on the power play. And I really do think Ekblad's going to score a goal. I think it's going to have a really similar effect to opening night when he scored a couple in his return game. Just him scoring a goal or two, it's gonna be a huge lift to the team. And I think he's going to get one. He's going to get on the board, and it's going to be a huge morale boost for the rest of the roster.
And never forget me and Nick's reaction to Aaron Ekblad coming back on opening night, and just how it was part of that 2-goal comeback against Pittsburgh, because let's not forget they let 4 unanswered goals after going up 2-0 early. And then Ekblad was a big part of that comeback before Carter Verhaeghe ended it in overtime. But one thing I really want to talk about is the street art around South Florida. We've seen the one in downtown Fort Lauderdale that was painted around last year, but now it's starting to trickle down all the way down to Dade County. There was a Vamos Gatos painting in Wynwood. I mean, I know this is 3 straight years of postseason for the Panthers. Like, again, if you count the COVID bubble, I wanted to flashback a little bit to 2016, where Panthers were back in the playoffs for the first time in 4 years at that point. A few hours before game 1, I remember looking at StubHub and seeing how much prices were for game 1, like 2 hours before. And I saw $20 before. So it's like, okay, it's a little while. It's been a little while, so it's going to take a few wins to get this region back fully again. But I really think it's different this time around now with how consistently they've been these last few years. I mean, the first one was just because of a play-in, but these last 2 seasons specifically, I think this region is as bought in as it ever has been, seeing it as far as like Twitter, and then the times that I've gone down, which I will be able to see it again for sure when I come back. But how much do you think this region is bought into this team? I'll start with Nick on this one.
I think it has to do with expectations. You talked about 2016 where, you saw StubHub tickets for like $20. I think that there was still like a lingering kind of like, oh, well, they made the playoffs, but, are they really going to go far? And, did they win the division? Kind of things like that. Like there wasn't a whole lot of expectation that year. Whereas now you start to build on that. You have Bill Zito's, and I hate to say this, but you have Bill Zito's blueprint. And basically, it's a recipe for success right now. And, with that success comes the expectations. And now I think that everybody sees, how dominant this team has been for the last 2 seasons, especially this season, that everybody's buying into it now. You have the street art, as you talked about it. I think Twitter has been ridiculously positive lately. I mean, people I think are being negative just to be, to kind of catch themselves, not to be too positive and everything. But, if you look at ticket prices now, I think people are trying to sell their tickets to make a profit. You probably couldn't say that 5 years ago, but I think, honestly, if Florida can win this first series, 96 is not going to know what hit them.
What says you, Jacob?
I agree. I've been down to a few games this year. I've been around the area. I even happened to run into Barkov at the beach before a game recently, and everyone was recognizing him, telling him good luck. I'm not going to I feel like that's probably like his private place that he likes to go before games. So I'm not going to put out there what beach that is, but yeah, it's the region has bought in. I've seen a lot of the interaction on Twitter. It's been all about Miami Heat and Florida Panthers right now, and it's not a big brother, little brother. It's the region is genuinely invested in both of these teams and both of these playoff runs. I think it's fantastic for South Florida, and yeah, it just seems like this is a perfect storm. This is the time to establish themselves as a champion in this region. And everyone kind of knows once you win a championship in South Florida, the region never really forgets, and they just expect that as the new standard, or as we Heat people say, the culture.
Yes.
Even the Miami Dolphins, everyone. You can go anywhere in South Florida, and everyone will always talk about the undefeated season and Dan Marino and that era. It's once you start to win, this area just expects you to win, and that becomes the standard. So I'm really looking forward to the Panthers finally breaking through into that tier of a South Florida champion.
Mm. And the talk is getting greater and greater and greater. When I went down shortly after Claude Giroux was acquired, the very first billboard that I saw entering Broward County off I-95 was "Welcome to South Florida, Claude Giroux," and that just brought a little bit of emotion to me when reading that, because it's like, man, it felt real, and it's like pinch me. It's like don't pinch me. When seeing that, it's like, wow. And this is a team that's been marketed so much better from the last few years. So credit to ownership on that one as well. But we're gonna take a break, and then we're gonna discuss more on this first round matchup between the Florida Panthers and the Washington Capitals, all ahead on this roundtable edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. But first, we're gonna tell you all about Athletic Greens. And what is this stuff? With one delicious scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotic, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging. All the things. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with a convenient daily nutrition. It's just one scoop of water every day. That's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. So to make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you 1 free year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL Network. That is athleticgreens.com/NHL BetOnline.ag/NHL Network to take ownership of your health and pick up the ultimate nutritional insurance. Back on this roundtable edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, I'm Armando Velez. I got my Wednesday and Friday guest hosts on the show on this roundtable edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. And gentlemen, Andrew Burnett did speak to the media today. He said something that we all kind of expected. Sergei Bobrovsky is the starter for Game 1 against the Washington Capitals. And this is a quote specifically that Andrew Burnett said. Bob is our guy. Something that David Dwork has and I have talked about together is that the revolving door around 3 goalies last season had a lot to do with ultimately losing to the Tampa Bay Lightning because of course the team getting accumulated to the guy who's back there, how to play to their strengths, how to communicate to when the puck is going in one way or the other. So that had a lot to do with why the Florida Panthers lost, and of course not staying out of the penalty box, of course. So I wrote an article on pantherparkway.com talking about how short is Bobrovsky's leash. And I'm going to give my answer first, is I think if it's a high-scoring game and the Panthers still win, he's starting the next one. If it's blowing a lead and then it tied, we might. But if it's something that they don't trail and it's still high scoring, or they don't trail by much or blow a lead, I think his leash is a lot longer than it was last season. I'm going to start this one with Jacob. How short is Sergei Bobrovsky's leash in these playoffs?
Yeah, I'm going to answer that question in just a second. I'm just going to give you guys some info in case this is important to you. Toronto's just taken a 3-0 lead over Tampa with a power play goal and then a shorthanded goal. Something to keep an eye on. Yeah, Matthews on a 5-on-3 and then Camp shorthanded. So 3-0. Anyway, back to the original topic with Bob. I think his leash is considerably longer than last year's. Just because last season we had 3 goalies that we all felt confident in with Drieger and Knight. This year Knight hasn't been quite as reliable as last season, so I feel like it would take like a bigger sample size of negativity to turn it to Spencer Knight. But I'd say if it were a case where we happen to go down 2-0 or something like that, and goaltending is a big part of it, you could see Spencer start Game 3. Obviously, that's a worst case scenario, and I hope to God that doesn't happen. But I think there's a lot more confidence in Bob this year than the past 2 seasons, especially last year.
And I have another update for you guys. The Carolina Hurricanes have scored 2 goals in 2 minutes, so they are now up 2-0 on the Boston Bruins. So just another series to look out for. I'm in total agreement with both you guys that his leash is definitely longer. I think his play this season has dictated that. He's definitely had some games where it's like, come on, another Bob goal given up or another goal that he's given up that he should have saved. But I think now coming in, I don't feel like he has the pressure that he's had. I think Knight is pushing him, but I don't think to the point where he's going to lose his job or that, the coaching staff was always going to go away from him. I think Spencer got enough games under his belt to kind of get into a groove and really start feeling himself, but never enough to kind of like take the reins away from Bob. As Burnett said, Bob is our guy. I do think that, if Florida is to get past the first round, Bob is going to have to, play out, out of his mind. And I do think that he will rise to that occasion like he did a couple of years ago against Tampa Bay.
Can I ask you both a question on that? I got a question for both of you guys, actually.
Okay.
How much of Bruno's comments on Bob with the Bob is our guy, those kind of things, how much of that do you think is Bruno trying to instill that confidence in Bob that your leash is not short, we believe in you, you're our ace? How much of? Yeah,
I say a lot because I think about what you're saying, what teams say out in the public versus what they say behind closed doors. That is my view of that. And if Andrew Burnett's walking to the podium and think about how fast he would answer a question too, versus hesitating. There was no hesitation in Andrew Burnett when talking about Bob and saying that he's our guy, and knowing that Bob is, and somebody's probably going to inform Bob too, that that's what he said too, even if he's not in the press conference. I mean, players hear that all the time. So I'm sure if you were to ask Bob as well, he would say, "Oh, I have confidence in myself. I know that my coach has confidence in me too." But without saying it out loud, he's probably thinking, "Thanks, coach. I won't let you down, and I'm gonna go out there and a little extra boost to play the best that he hopefully has played going back to 2019." What says you, Nick?
So I don't think Bob really follows anything anymore on social media or anything out in the news. And I think it is for the betterment of his game and his mental status. So I honestly think that they probably had a talk at the end of the season, or at least, probably in between the end of the season and, the start of the playoffs tomorrow, that, hey, Bob, this is your show. Let's see what you can do. This is exactly why we brought you here. This is why you get paid the big bucks. And let's do what we can. Is there, what can we do to help you and ensure that, you are at your best. And on top of that, how can we bring, how can we bring the best out of you? So I think that, Bruno probably having that speech with him and everything probably alleviates a lot of maybe the stress, or maybe the thinking that, oh, well, if I don't have a good game, he's not going to start the next game. I think Florida has to learn that they have to stick with one goalie. And, if Bob doesn't pan out, then it's going to have to be Knight the rest of the way.
Yeah, and I also think about this. With covering this team, people hear what, I don't know if any of them listen to this show specifically, but they hear what people have to say about them. Fans hear it, local media hear it. But if you're a player in that locker room, all you got, and which is something that I respect too, is going up to each individual player. If they hear something, if they hear criticisms about them as well, they got to consistently tell them to block the noise. Easier said than done, but Bob's probably heard it so many times about the contract, the first 2 years in Florida, and now that, Nick, you hit it right on the head when you said deleting all of his media, not following anything. To the teams and to the players, that's all noise. That's all between here in all of this.
Yeah, that's exactly why I brought it up. Is you have to wonder how much he was on social media after games or during games or even on his off days. Kind of like replaying what happened the night before, and you can just see the difference between him, the previous season or the previous 2 seasons to this season. He seems more aware of what's going on in games. I mean, he has his gaffes, but he seems to be more in tune with the game, and he's more focused on what needs to be done.
Jacob, any other thoughts on Bob?
No, I think you guys really, like Nick said, hit the nail on the head. I think his lack of social media focus has been a big part of how he's played this season, especially his hot start. I think he's just hit, and also we also have to credit his daughter as well. Dad Bob, Dad Bob is a real thing. I think he's hit another level of maturity in his game, and all of that is mental. And when you have that mental breakthrough as a goalie, it can literally extend your career, because being a goalie, so much of that is just the mental aspect of it. So I think he's more than ready to go for this playoff series. And I think he's also just has more confidence in the defense in front of him now. We don't have the liabilities. We've made addition by subtraction, getting rid of some of those defensive holes. And I think he feels better about the defense in front of him. He's getting the goal support, so he's in a good place.
Yeah, and goalie seasons are hard to predict whether it's going to be good or bad. The fact that he's playing at this level right now, at least in the regular season, this is the time to do it. While Bob is having this much of a better season than the previous 2 years, see what you can do with him. See, get him out there. show him that he's worth that $10 million. And then, of course, if they win, nobody will ever talk about the $10 million cap hit ever again because you got the job done. But
right.
One more question before we transition over to predictions and all of the playoff series. We're going to talk about all of them. So lines at practice kind of look like this after Jonathan Huberdeau and Carter Verhaeghe and Mason Marchment had maintenance days yesterday. The lines look like this: Verhaeghe, Barkov, Duclair on the first line, Huberdeau, Bennett, Giroux on the second line, the amazing third line of Anton Lundell, of course, Nick's favorite, Sam Reinhart, and Mason Marchment. Fourth line is Eetu Luostarinen, Ryan Lomberg, and Patrick Hornquist. Defensive pairings are Weegar, Ekblad, Forsling and Gudas, and Sherratt Montour. This is from Monday's practice based on the people who were there at the Panthers ice den today. Encouraging sign with Carter Verhaeghe and Jonathan Huberdeau being back, even though they were spotted on Instagram riding some type of motorcycle around town. Glad they had a good day off. Honestly, these players work hard, so I can't give them I can't give them crap for that. It's not all hockey all the time, even though they are in the middle of a Stanley Cup chase. But I want to ask you guys. I'm liking that Duclair is on the first line with Sasha Barkov and Giroux is on the second line based on the speed factors, because Barkov and Verhaeghe can skate with Duke, and especially if Barkov is a trailer going the other way. And I think that's why, even though we've seen bits and pieces of Barkov with Giroux and even in desperate situations, Huberdeau, I like that it's starting off as Barkov, Duclair, and Verhaeghe on that top line. Or do you guys disagree with me that it should be Giroux on the first line? Let's go with Nick first on this one.
No, I think Duclair adds to the first line dimension. So you have your two-way forward and Barkov that's always going to be responsible, but then you also have your gritty winger in Verhaeghe who never lets a play die and always does his best to win a board battle. I think that, that line is well balanced, and then you allow Giroux to go to the second line to kind of help balance them out, because you have a playmaker in Huberdeau who's going to pass to everybody and, will shoot when he feels like he needs to. And then you have Bennett, who is always, trying to make something happen. So you kind of need to balance that line out as well. Third line is perfect. I mean, we don't need to change anything there. Fourth line, I wonder if that's just kind of for practice, but kind of sad not to see Noel Acciari there, to be honest with you. I thought he looked fantastic to end the season as far as, him providing energy, hitting, and skating. But I also understand that Luostarinen's done a very good job all season. I haven't seen really any weaknesses in his game outside of possibly scoring, but he's been responsible as a two-way forward. And then you have Patrick Hornquist, who this is why you brought him in the trade for Mike Matheson, other than, addition by subtraction in that regard.
Yeah, I agree. I think as far as the lines go, that top line has me very excited. They have more speed than anyone on that Capitals roster can really compete with. I think the second line is great. I think that's going to get Sam Bennett's game going a little bit. He's slumped a little bit lately, but I think that's going to get his game back on track. He's got two elite passers with him, and he's a finisher. I think the third line is what really separates us from Washington in this series, and probably any team you run up against throughout the playoffs. I think the third line really sets us apart. There's not a third line in the league that has a player the caliber of Sam Reinhart. That third line, I think, is going to make all the difference. And then the fourth line, I actually like going with that fourth line. I like with Luostarinen with Lomberg and Hornquist to start. That line was fantastic for the majority of the year until some injuries broke them apart. I do think anyone of all the guys in the lineup, assuming everyone stays healthy, the one guy who's like most susceptible to a healthy scratch, I think, would be Luostarinen. If this series early on looks like we need some penalty kill help, or it looks like there's going to be an element of physicality that he might not be physically developed for, I could easily see Acciari taking that spot, or face-offs become a problem. So we have that flexibility. But as it goes starting out, I think we've got the right group. And man, we are very, very fortunate to be entering the playoffs with health on our side, because not every team has that luxury.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, health has been. You think about post winter break, where how this team came firing. Post All-Star Olympic break, 3 straight road wins when this team has been very up and down on the road in the first 3-4 months of the season. And yeah, we could see so much interchanging with. I said I don't think Joe Thornton's going to start the series, but he's going to get in there somewhere in the series. And then Luosterainen could either be shifted to the wing because he can play a little bit of wing along with Achari too, along with playing center. So flexibility is really what's gonna help Florida really juggle some of those, especially on the fourth line. But I mean, in the playoffs, it's more like the top 9 minutes are more of the emphasis one, the ones that are emphasized. So I don't know how much Andrew Burnett is going to just really look in that direction as far as like if there's major issues in their games. But of course, you never know, and these fourth line players can possibly play a shift on the top 9 as well. So there could be a little spot plays as well for this team. Defensive pairings. I mean, Uyghur Ekblad, we love seeing that combo back. Forsling Gudis, even though I was thinking it was going to be Sherratt Gudis and Forsling Montour, but at times we've seen as much as Radko Gudis, he's valuable when it comes to hits. Sometimes we see him overcommit on a hit going the other way, and then there's a breakaway the other way. I'm hoping with but I also think about Forsling's speed combined with Gudis as well. I think that and I think that's why I think I rather see Forsling with Brandon Montour. Do you what says you guys? We'll start with Jacob.
Yeah, so I think naturally you have to go back to Ekblad Uyghur, especially getting Ekblad back in the lineup. You don't want him playing with a new partner right away. You put him with the guy he's familiar with. Forsling Gudis, they've been serviceable. I don't know if that's what we're going to see stick. My NHL 22 dreams have me with Sherratt Gudis and just wreaking havoc as a dominant only defense kind of thing, and they're just crushing people out there. I would love to see that. That might work better in that might work better in video games. I know that pairing is great for me in NHL 22. And Forsling Montour, just so much offensive ability and speed if that does materialize. But Sherratt and Montour played really well together down the stretch. So I think that's a great pairing. I was clamoring for that to happen. When originally Sherratt started with Uyghur, I was begging for them to put him with Montour. I feel like they complement each other really well. So yeah, I think these are the pairs you have to start with. And if there are adjustments to be made, you make them later on as we go. But this is the group I would start with. And I'm going to close this with just letting you guys know Mitch Marner just tallied. It is 4-0 Toronto right now.
Wow, Mitch Marner broke his streak. His drought, excuse me?
He did, yep.
Since game 1 of 2019 against the Boston Bruins, Mitch Marner scored in the playoffs.
And Vasilevsky's given up 4 on less than 20 shots. So.
Oh, congrats to Mitch Marner.
I'm going to tell you guys right now, that 4-0 score does not scare me.
Mm-mm.
Watch what's going to happen in the third period. It's a tale as old as time.
No, they don't choke until game 7, Nick.
Or until after 3-1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we did come back after 5-1, and they're up 4-0. Yeah. So back to the defensive pairing. Sorry, I kind of just wanted to get that in there.
I'm
perfectly okay. I'm perfectly okay with getting Ekblad back with Uyghur, as Jake said. That you want him playing with somebody he's familiar with to kind of get him back in the groove and back into the playing style. So absolutely no issues there. Second pairing, I was actually hoping for a Sherratt and Forsling pairing. I think that would be a dynamite pairing just because Sherratt can then play his shutdown type of play that he was brought in to do, and he can bruise people, whereas Forsling could be that that speedster defenseman, offensive type defenseman. And then again on third pairing, you have Gudis and Montour, who again you have that defensive defenseman who wants to hit everybody, yet you have a guy who's fast enough on the defense to be able to cover for him, and also pinching on the offensive side that we've seen Montour do. So, we'll see what happens during the series. One thing I did actually want to add in conjunction with the forward lines and everything is let's see how long it takes for Andrew Brunette to go back to Barkov and Huberdeau on the same line. It'll be definitely telling if he's going to go to that early or if that's going to be something that's going to be like, hey, you know what? We're in control of this game. We really don't need to put the two together.
It just depends how late, if they come out to if it's an early deficit, expect it.
My question is not so much a deficit, but if we get into a game where it's scoreless for a long time, does Brunette panic and make that change? Do you think he hits the panic button a little bit in a low scoring game where the offense just isn't coming? It's 0-0 in the third period. You think that's even second period, like halfway through a game, if we haven't scored a goal, do you think Brunette gets shaky and decides to make a super line?
I like to change but here's the thing. I like to change the terminology of what you just said, though. I don't want to call it desperate if it's 0-0, especially in game one. Like, I don't want to call it a desperate move, but just a spark move instead. Because if it's 0-0 and you have that, even if you give up one, there's still a chance that Jesus, like 58 of in their 58 wins, 29 have been comeback wins.
Right.
I'm not worried.
So I will say this: if that is the case, and Brunette does go back to Barkov and Huberdeau, who does he drop? Does he drop Duclair to the second line, or does he drop Verhaeghe?
I think he dropped Duclair.
Oh,
interesting. I think he dropped Duke because of Duke's chemistry with Bennett. I think Verhaeghe also plays that forechecking style that you need on that top line, whether Huberdeau's on a wing or not. I think Duclair gets dropped down to play with Bennett.
I say Verhaeghe because I don't know how I've seen Verhaeghe on the right side. It's his unnatural side. That's the thing. Versus Duclair, he's always on the right side. So that's why I say Verhaeghe. So that's pretty much my answer for that. But we're going to in this next one is going to be probably the best part of the roundtable discussion. Next segment, we're going to talk about our predictions for every single series in the first round, and we might have some disagreements, we might have some debates, but this is going to be fun. But first, we're going to tell you all about BetOnline. And BetOnline.net is your number one source for all your betting stats, sports, and info. Find all the latest sports development, league reviews, and news, including this year's basketball and Stanley Cup playoffs, and to the start of the Major League Baseball season. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering information, from live betting to playoffs, esports, and more. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline, where the game starts. Third and final segment on this roundtable edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. I'm Armando Velez. I got my fellow guest hosts on Wednesdays and Fridays, Nick Fairbanks and Jacob Winans here. Guys, I know we have games already in play and there's leads, but I still have stuff written down from pre-recording and pre-puck drop that aren't going to change. I'm not going to overreact just to a few periods based on the first few games, even though they're looking to be blowouts at this point in time. Let's start with one that might be probably the easiest to predict. Let's start with Colorado, Nashville. Storyline: UC Saros is not playing. It looks like he might miss the first two games. It looks like, but David Rittich, I know he got a win against the Panthers in late February, but I don't know if he can get more than one win out of the Nashville Predators. Colorado, even though they finished the regular season a little slow, I think with Landeskog coming back, I think that the Colorado Avalanche defeat the Nashville Predators in 5 games. We'll start with Nick on this one.
100% agree. That's exactly what I have in 5 games. I think that once Saros comes back, I think the Predators steal a game. And if that's not the case, then I think Rittich will probably stave off an elimination game where they're down 3-0 in the series.
Yeah, for me, I've got Colorado in 5. Now, I'm not going to say it's going to be a blowout series because Nashville, they're a team that has some playoff experience. They know how to hang around. Plus, Nashville is just not an easy building to play in come playoff time. So I'm going to give Nashville a game. Originally, UC Saros' injury was described as a 4 to 6 weeks thing. So the fact that he could play game 3 or game 4 seems odd to me. If he does, he's definitely not at 100%. So I don't think they last very long in this series, but I'm going to give them at least one game on the off chance that Saros does come back, and I'm just going to go with the talent of Philip Forsberg and a couple of those other guys. They have enough talent on that team to steal a game.
And I discovered this today based on something I was reading today. The two defensemen who are up for the Norris Trophy in this one, Roman Josi and Cale Makar, the point production that they're having, there hasn't been a point production like that for defensemen since the 80s when the New York Islanders faced the Edmonton Oilers. Paul Coffey, and you want to guess who the other defenseman was on the Islanders?
Denny Potvin?
Correct.
Yep.
Hey.
So, yeah, the Florida Panther fans, we all love Denny Potvin. Hope he's doing well in retirement. But this one is the hardest series to predict, in my opinion. This next one, Minnesota, St. Louis. That goalie tandem out in Minnesota is great. Marc-Andre Fleury being traded there has kicked in a new gear for Cam Talbot, but they're not going with him in game 1. They're going with the 3-time Stanley Cup champion, just Vezina Trophy winner from last year. Marc-Andre Fleury is starting for the Minnesota Wild, and Ville Husso is starting for the St. Louis Blues. I mean, a lot of Jordan Bennington has fallen off a cliff ever since he won that Stanley Cup in 2019, just a little bit. But St. Louis has swept, though, Minnesota this regular season. But I'm going to say that the Wild find a way to win this one in 7 games, and they will. And how important that that home ice advantage is for the Wild, that's a great environment to play in out there in the state of hockey. We're going to start with Jacob. What says you about this series?
I've got Minnesota in 6 in this one. Yeah, I'm giving the Wild this one in 6. Flower is another animal in playoff time. I think they get this one done. I think St. Louis is kind of old. They don't have the veterans or the youth on their side to complement their veterans. They're a good team. They're going to grind, but I think Minnesota is just too good, too talented, and they have the advantage between the pipes. So I give them this one in 6.
I also have Minnesota in 6, and basically it comes down to goaltending and Kirill the Thrill. I honestly think that this is going to be his coming out party outside of him scoring over 100 points for Minnesota. But I just like the youth movement that Bill Guerin's been able to put together up there in Minnesota, and I think that, just because they have a lack of experience in the playoffs, I think, as Jacob said, that St. Louis just has, probably some older guys right now that might not be able to, they would say with the grind and everything like that. So I'm going to stay with Minnesota 6 games, and Kirill the Thrill is going to be the MVP of that series.
Yeah, and Kirill Kaprizov, one of 8 100-point scorers in the NHL this year. So one of 8. And this next one, the Calgary Flames and the Dallas Stars. Jacob Markstrom, former Florida Panther prospect, Jacob Markstrom, who's had a big workload, probably one of the biggest workloads in all of the NHL. Darryl Sutter's that old school coach that likes to do that. We even saw it with in LA when he was the coach of the LA Kings when they went to the Stanley Cup. And so with that line of Tkachuk and Johnny Gaudreau, there's no Sean Monahan. He was playing in the bottom 6, so no Sean Monahan for the rest of the season. Dallas, really, a lot of their scoring comes from their very top line of Hintz, Robertson, and Pavelski. I have Calgary in 5 and maybe even a sweep, but I think that dominant top line of the 3 in Dallas, I think they can steal one. We'll start with Nick on this one.
I have Calgary in 4, and it's because I think Calgary's built to go the distance this postseason. I think they have the right coach. I think they have the right personnel, and I think they have the right goaltender. I don't think Dallas really can match them on any level. I think that their defense is offensive minded, and they're going to get exposed because they're not going to be able to play the down and dirty game. Plus, you know, Jacob Markstrom was nicknamed the alien when he was down here, and I think he's showing it. And I think he's going to show why he's probably going to be the Vezina winner this year. Well, maybe not Vezina winner because Shesterkin's probably got that, but he'll be considered in the Conn conversation. But I have Calgary in 4.
I'm gonna surprise you both here a little bit. I'm gonna say Calgary in 7. I still think Calgary comes out with it, but I think Dallas is gonna actually put up a fight in this series. A couple of reasons being they've been playing playoff hockey for the last month. They're used to the pressure. They've been in the playoffs for a month. They've been battling with Vegas for that last playoff spot, so they're used to this pressure. I think Ottinger is a good goalie. I think he can get the job done in the playoffs. I do have some questions about Johnny Gaudreau come playoff hockey time. He hasn't always performed well in the playoffs, and his small stature, his playing style don't really mesh well with the playoff style. So I have some questions about him and his game translating to this time of year. Obviously, Dallas is a one-line team. That Jason Robertson, Pavelski, and Hintz line has been fantastic. But I think come playoff time, Tyler Seguin and Jamie Benn, who've had really, really, really bad seasons, I think they'll wake up a little bit now that this is the playoffs. So I'm going to give Dallas, I think they're going to put up a strong fight, and they're eventually going to be outmatched in Game 7. But this is a team that knows how to play a playoff hockey, and I think they're gonna give Calgary all that they can handle in this one, and they've got the veteran leadership to do so.
Mm-hmm. And there's still the questions of John Klingberg, what's going to happen for him this offseason. And Jamie Benn and Tyler Seguin have heard the noise about their contracts too, about how it's holding that team down possibly. And they definitely want to go off on a better note. So I can see why you would take it all the way to 7. Okay, this next one. I was talking about this pre-recording, but I didn't say what my pick was. This one I was thinking about going on with an upset with the LA Kings matchup versus the Edmonton Oilers. Mike Smith and Jonathan Quick playing in the playoffs for the first time. They played 10 years ago when Mike Smith was on the Arizona Coyotes when they made it to the Western Conference Final. 2 older goalies. Jonathan Quick has had a resurging season. They have 2 great defensive forwards of Philip Deneau and Anze Kopitar, but they're missing Drew Doughty. Apparently, even if the LA Kings make it all the way to the Stanley Cup final, Drew Doughty won't play. So that's a big loss for the Los Angeles Kings. If Drew Doughty was there, I'd probably pick the LA Kings, but I think that's gonna hold them back from getting over the hump. But they're still gonna give McDavid and Draisaitl a hard time, as there's such a great defensive team and a great great penalty killing team, and of course credit to Jonathan Quick. But I'm gonna go Edmonton in 6 with this one. Of course, McDavid, Draisaitl, like when those 2 are on, they're on. And it's time for Edmonton also to make a little bit of a run in the playoffs as well. We'll start with Jacob on this one.
So this is this one is an interesting one. I'm gonna actually pull an upset here. I'm gonna say Kings pull this one off in 6. McDavid and Draisaitl have underachieved in the playoffs time and time again. I think this is going to be another case where that happens. LA is coached by the former coach of the Oilers. He's got the answers. If there is such an answer as stopping McDavid, he's the closest one to have it, I would think, because he knows their game. But I think what separates this is defense and goaltending. So I take Jonathan Quick over both goaltenders in Edmonton. I think their goaltending issues are going to get exposed. I think LA has experience stopping Evander Kane, who's now an integral part of that top line. given his time in San Jose. LA has seen him; they know how to deal with him. But the big thing for me, the defensive centers that LA is able to deploy here. They can match Kopitar with one of McDavid or Draisaitl, and they can match Danault with the other one. That's huge come playoff time. I think LA is going to be able to limit them, and if you take McDavid and Draisaitl and even limit them slightly, Edmonton just does not have the depth needed. So I'm giving this one to the Kings in 6 in an upset.
Jake, you took all my talking points, so I'm going to make it short and sweet. So, yes, I have LA winning in 6 as well, and it's due to the fact that I think the Kings are deeper at a forward level and also defensively, but also in goaltending. I think that, Quick is going to be the huge difference, and I think Mike Smith is going to look like the Mike Smith of old where, unfortunately, he's going to come unglued and, he might throw a stick at somebody, and it's, that's going to be his game. But I think, with your point that Kopitar or Danault is going to be deployed on either McDavid or Draisaitl, can you name one player on Edmonton that could do that to, those two players on LA? I don't think you can. I also think that their defense is really suspect. I mean, I like Darnell Nurse and everything, but everybody else on that blue line, I don't like it.
Mm-hmm. And Darnell Nurse, from what I remember, he's a game time decision for the Kings Oilers game 1 tonight, Monday night as we're recording. So he's a game time decision. So we don't even know if Darnell Nurse is going to suit up. So they
his
probably
workload is outrageous as well. They put so much on his shoulders. There's just no way he can carry all that himself.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they got to justify that $9 million contract they gave him.
Mm-hmm. Just like Seth Jones
justify getting rid of Ethan Bear for Duncan Keith. Try that one.
Oh, bad. But all right, we know the score of what's going on in Boston, Carolina right now as we're recording this. Right now it is 3-1 Hurricanes. And
Vinen from Trocheck.
Oof.
Yep.
But I don't know. I think I'm pulling. I think even though Freddie Anderson's hurt for the Hurricanes, I think the defense is so great around the goalie as well, that they can at least get one round in. So I think that the Carolina Hurricanes win this one in 6 games over the Boston Bruins. There's still that question about what's going to happen with Patrice Bergeron in the offseason. They're probably going to trade Jake DeBrusk this offseason. They gave him a contract extension to at least give him some term and security. But what's going to happen? I mean, the goaltending of Linus Ullmark and Jeremy Swayman have 0 playoff games. So I'm going to go with Carolina in 6. What says you, Jacob?
Oh man, this is a tough one to predict. Carolina looks good right now. They're deep, even in goaltending. Antti Raanta is not a bad goalie. There was a couple of years ago, he was putting up some of the best numbers in the league. He just dealt with a lot of injuries, so I don't think they necessarily have bad goaltending, even without Freddie Anderson. What I don't see any possible way this series ends before 7 games. I think Boston is just too talented, too sound defensively, and too experienced to lose this any less than 7 games. They've also knocked Carolina out of the playoffs 2 times in the past 3 playoffs, so they're not intimidated by the Hurricanes, regardless of what the regular season looked like in the head-to-head. So I think this goes all the way to 7 games. I'm going to give Carolina the slight edge, and I'm going to do one better here. I'm going to say Carolina wins this in overtime of Game 7. I think it's going to be that close. It's going to come all the way down to the final goal. And, I think Carolina's going to get it done. But I don't see any way Boston goes down without putting up a hell of a fight, because this is likely their last chance with this core. There's no way they can keep this together beyond this year. So I'm saying Carolina in 7 on an overtime winner.
I have Boston in 7, and it's due to the fact that every time that you want to count this team out, or you think they're done, or that this core is old, and that they should be on the downswing. Here they are. I mean, it was a couple of weeks ago, or at least last month, that we were all talking like, "Oh, Boston's going to pass Toronto. It's no problem." They didn't quite catch them, but they never went away. They were all, unfortunately, another team that I don't think a lot of people picked in the Atlantic to finish, as high as they did. I know that we, with our roundtable, thought Boston was going to finish in the top 3 or 4, which, thankfully, did they
They're the wild
finish
card.
Okay, yeah, they're wild card. So they still made it, and they're still a dominant team. I think that their maturity and how long that they've been together, I think that will prevail over the Hurricanes in 7 games.
Man, going with the upset here. Man.
2 of them.
All right, let's actually, I have this written down first before this other one, but I'm actually going to flip it around with what I have on my notes. I'm going to go with New York Rangers versus Pittsburgh Penguins. Tristan Jarry has a fractured foot. We don't know what's going to go on with Evgeny Malkin and Chris Letang, as they're both free agents. Sidney Crosby has 3 more years on his contract after this season. So, but I just also, there's many reasons to pick Pittsburgh because of their penalty killing as well, of how well they are. And New York relies on the power play a lot. But they also rely on their goaltending. So, I mean, if you can get those two, I know there's less penalties in the playoffs, but I just love what Igor Shesterkin is doing. So I'm going to go with the New York Rangers in 6 games in this one, because Igor Shesterkin, he's going to continue that into the playoffs, I believe. We'll go with Nick first.
So I'm going to flip-flop on my original pick. And I am going to go with Pittsburgh in 6, mainly due to the fact that I think the Rangers have had a really good season, and that they were carried by a couple of people. You have Artemi Panarin, Chris Kreider, who finally crossed the 50-goal mark. So congratulations to him. And then you got Frankie Vetrano, Florida native, that, they really put that team together, and, hats off to Gerard Gallant for, once again, going into another team on his first season and basically taking them to the playoffs. So, but I can't argue with the depth of the Penguins, and you cannot argue against the hardware that they've gotten in the past. So, regardless of who's in goal for them, whether that's DeSmith or Jarry, I still think Pittsburgh gets it done in 6.
Yeah, I'm actually sticking with my original pick that we talked about before recording. I'm going to go with the upset here, and I'm going to say Pittsburgh in 5. I think this is going to be a big upset. I think this is going to be a big upset, yeah. New York is very power play dependent, and Pittsburgh takes the second fewest penalties in the league and has the highest penalty kill percentage. They've got just a nasty penalty kill. They can deploy almost any kind of grouping you want out there. You want shot blockers, you want size, you want bruisers, you want speed guys. They have all of that that they can use on their penalty kill. They've got Sidney Crosby, who wins faceoffs. They've got, Brian Boyle has been a key penalty killer. He's a big body come playoff time. They're just so deep in special teams. Gensel as well. He's another one. I think they're going to eliminate the power play of New York. And I think New York is also very unproven in their top 6 outside of Panarin, Zibanejad, and Kreider. I think relying on guys like Andrew Kopp come playoff time to be a big offensive impact. I think relying on Frank Vetrano, as much as I love him, he has not shown up in his playoff appearances with the Panthers. So I think Pittsburgh has the pedigree. They've got the experience, and I think they're just the worst possible matchup for the style that the Rangers play. So I think they're going to overwhelm Shesterkin. And it's hard to bet against Sidney Crosby. It just really is. He's Crosby. I love him or hate him. This is his time.
Yeah, and you never know when his time might be up. And he continues to prove it again. 16 straight playoff appearances for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Longest active streak in the NHL.
Yep.
A little bit of way to go to match what the Detroit Red Wings did for 22 years. It was, I believe, like 21 or
25, 26.
Oh my God, that's a lot. Still a long way to go, though. Tampa Bay, Toronto.
Oh,
I know Toronto's right now winning 4-0. Mitch Marner, I have according to Jake, has broken his drought for scoring in a playoff game. First one since Game 1 against Boston 2019. But I know they're up 4-0, but I'm being consistent. I still don't trust the Maple Leafs. And I think Tampa Bay is going to win this in 6 games. They'll find a way to steal maybe Game 2. It might be one bad game. We might even see a comeback before this is all said and done for Game 1. But I think Tampa Bay is winning this in 6 because Andre Vasilevsky. We'll go with Nick.
So I think you hit it on the head, and I'm going to add an extra caveat. There's 2 people on Twitter that I kind of follow, and it's kind of like more of a hate follow. It's Dom from The Athletic and Jay Fresh.
Jay Fresh.
Man, what kind of Leaf homers? And I know Jay Fresh is a Pittsburgh fan, but man, like, can we put the analytics away a little bit and actually watch other hockey than the Pittsburgh Penguins or even the Toronto Maple Leafs? But my God, man. You can't trust the Leafs. They haven't proven anything since 2004. They haven't won a cup since 67. They have probably the best overall player in the league right now outside of McDavid and everything, and it still doesn't matter. To me, I still find their defense suspect. Their goaltending, it's been good this year. Jack Campbell, I think he was drafted by Dallas a little while ago. He's been solid, but to me, the overall depth of the Bolts and their 2 Stanley Cup wins and Vasilevsky, I think that's just a little bit too much to come by. I have the Bolts winning in 7, and the caveat to this is that I think the Leafs are going to be up 3-2 in the series, and they're going to blow it. And Dom and Jay Fresh are going to have a meltdown because I'm going to get closer to the camera. Matthews isn't going to win the Hart Trophy. I'm sorry. It's not going to happen.
All right, Jacob, try your best to top that.
Hard to follow that. I'm gonna go Lightning in 7 because why wouldn't the Maple Leafs lose in Game 7? It's the Maple Leafs. They're gonna lose in Game 7 at home. This is what they do. All jokes aside, we're Panthers fans here, so we don't have like that much of a high ground to stand on, but honestly, they're playing Tampa. Tampa's experience. They've got all the firepower in the world. Vasilevsky's going to turn his game on. We've seen this story before, and we've seen Toronto blow it against teams that are less talented than this Tampa team. So I'm giving it to Tampa in 7. But this is the blueprint. The Maple Leafs jump out to an early lead. They get everybody excited. Have an explosive Game 1. All the firepower. All their stars are hitting on all cylinders. By Game 7, it's going to be Tampa. They're going to disappoint Toronto, and it's going to be a game where Toronto is in it all the way till the 3rd period. It's going to be close, and then Tampa's going to blow it open in the 3rd and leave the entire nation of Canada stunned because that's just how this goes. And another thing, if we do happen to make it to the 2nd round, there's not an opponent I want to see more than the Tampa Bay Lightning, because I think if you get them in the 2nd round and overcome that giant in your path as the Panthers,
I might cry.
There's nothing that's going to stop them at that point. It's going to be like the Capitals beating the Penguins. We have to beat Tampa. We have to beat Tampa.
Exercise those demons.
I want a battle of Florida. I want that again.
Can you imagine a second round that features Battle of Florida and a Battle of Alberta? Those are both possible scenarios where you could have both of those rivalries in the.
Oh my God,
that's hockey heaven,
incredible.
Gentlemen.
It'd be incredible.
That is hockey heaven at its finest. So, I also can't wait. I know you're a Cowboys fan, Jake, but I cannot. Okay. I also cannot wait for that Stephen A. Smith video comparing the Leafs to the Cowboys, the Dallas Cowboys of Canada. I can't wait for that video to resurface.
As a Cowboy fan, I promise you, I live the same life as Toronto fans. Even as a Miami Hurricanes football fan, it's the same thing. always have promise. Everyone will hype us up, and the Cowboys year, and then first round exit, and I don't know why I ever put my Dak Prescott jersey on. So if I have to suffer that way, the Leafs fans are going to continue to suffer that way, and it's going to continue this year.
I mean, at least the Cowboys drought isn't as big as the Maple Leafs drought. So I mean, 1995, I think it was for the Cowboys, their last one. Yeah, 95.
Here's the thing with the Leafs and the Cowboys. I wasn't alive for either of their last championships, so that time gap doesn't mean anything to me.
As long as from the time you're alive, that's what matters.
Yep, never seen one, so
So fair enough. All right, to top it all off, I gave my predictions yesterday on Locked On Panthers when I did my crossover with Dan Homey of Locked On Capitals, but I'm going to repeat it again. Panthers win this one in 6. I think they'll lose one early, but I think they'll get one back in Washington. Win game 5 and 6, 5 at home. 5 at home, 6 on the road. Washington are not an easy place to play. The weirdest goal horn in the NHL, in my opinion. But yeah, it's the weirdest one. It doesn't sound like a real goal horn, but I'm gonna say the Florida Panthers get one. Get one on the road in the 3-4, and then win game 6 and avoid a game 7 back in Sunrise, and then go in a little bit rested while the Tampa Bay Toronto series maybe go the distance. We'll start with Jacob on this one.
Yeah, so my 5-year-old self would probably kill me for saying this because I'm originally from DC. I was a Capitals fan until I was about 8 years old. So that's when I moved to Florida and picked up the Panthers. So this is an internal struggle happening here. You can actually check out my Twitter for anyone watching this. You can see a great picture of me with a giant head and a Jaromir Jagr jersey on when I was 2 years old. So definitely worth checking out. But I'm going to say Panthers get this done in 6. I think the national media saying we're going to do it in 5 is just a little bit wishful thinking. I think we do this in 6 games. I think we win both of our 2 home games to start the series. I think we lose game 3 in Washington, but win game 4. And I think we fail to close it out at home in game 5, which is, of course, I'm going to panic when that happens. I'm saying it right now. I'm going to lose my mind because I'm going to freak out. And I think everyone else will because we're all going to think the sky is falling. But I think we close it out in game 6 in Washington. The Panthers just have too much firepower, too much speed, too much youth. I don't see any line where the Capitals actually have a better line than we do in a comparable matchup. So, and I think we have the advantage in goaltending as well. So I'm going to give it to the Panthers in 6. I think Ovechkin carries them to 1 win, and I think Bob coughs one up as well. So I'm going to give us the win in 6.
Bobrovsky. The only ESPN analyst that didn't pick the Florida Panthers, and yet you picked them at the beginning of the year. What's going on, man? Is the chicken parm not tasting right to you, sir?
Oh.
That's a question I have for you. So, I do have the Leafs just won up 5-0.
Oh, boy.
And the Hurricanes are winning 5-1. Sorry to kind of cut off my prediction, but okay, those games are over. Back to Florida's prediction. I do also have them winning in 6, despite John Butchergrass's prediction. But I do think it's going to come down to goaltending. And as Jacob did say, I do think we are going to get a Bob game where just unfortunately he's going to have an off night and Alex Ovechkin's going to make him pay for it. But I'm really undecided about what games they're going to lose. I honestly don't know if they're going to lose one of the games at home. I could see them honestly losing both road games, considering how they started the season going up and down. But I think what will happen is we'll come back home. They'll take a 3-2 lead, and then they'll figure it out that, hey, we got to close it out now, and they'll win in game 6 in Washington.
So all of us say Panthers in 6. I mean, the national media, I've seen them sprinkle a little bit more love on the Panthers. Maybe they might be overconfident of the Panthers, but maybe we as Panther fans might feel, okay, this team needs a little bit of adversity, not to get too cocky as far as picking this team. Some have even thought of a sweep, and I'm like, I'm not ready to go there. with a sweep. I mean, you have a Stanley Cup champion on the other side, of an experienced group too. So I'm not ready to be like super overly ambitious, but man, if this is an early series, if it ends in 5, wow, what a momentum swing that would carry over
Yeah.
to the next round, regardless of whether it's Tampa or Toronto. Any final thoughts, guys, before we close this out?
Yeah, I got something for both of you guys actually. Armando, I know you're a big Heat fan, right along with me. Heat are up 15 with 2 minutes left. Can I get your series prediction for that series, sir?
Oh, Heat in 5. No Joel Embiid.
5.
No Joel Embiid. So he might return later in the series, but he's not going to play any of the games in Miami. More than likely. And I think they'll get him back later in the series, and then he'll get one because Joel Embiid's that good. I don't know if they've announced MVP in the NBA yet, but I think he's the MVP.
I'm going Heat in 5 as well. I think we have the blueprint. I think we can shut down James Harden the way we shut down Trae Young. I'm going Heat in 5. But yeah, Embiid coming back. We'll see what he looks like when that happens. He'll obviously be wearing a face mask. Those are hard to play with. And he also has torn ligaments in his thumb, in addition to a fractured eye socket. So the dude's made of glass. It's unfortunate. What do you guys?
And I don't trust James Harden. I don't.
Not at all.
So I'm not a Heat fan. I'm from Chicago, so I live and die by the Bulls. But I will give props to Heat culture. I do think this is going to be a sweep. I don't think the Nets really hold a candle to you guys this season. I know Embiid is the only I guess obstacle you guys got to get past. I think Harden is old man now. He's forced his way off of 2 teams that he should have probably stayed on. Who isn't these days after COVID? I mean, dang. So I honestly think the Heat are going to sweep them, and they're going to have a nice rest before they go to the Eastern Conference Finals against the Bucks.
The Bucks.
Okay. Ooh, okay. All right.
I hope it's the Celtics for the Heat because of past series during the LeBron years. But guys, it's been fun. We're at an hour and 20 minutes of this roundtable. It's a great way. And I don't even mind. This is a postseason edition of the show, like getting prepared. I'm ready. You guys are ready. And more importantly, everyone listening to this in the South Florida region, I hope you're ready as well. If you want to follow Jacob on Twitter, you can follow him at JacobWinans8, and you could also follow Nick Fairbanks at Prudentia0, and you'll see Jacob on Wednesday's edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, and Nick will be here on Fridays, and we'll have some guests from here and there throughout the playoffs as we go, and we're going to have weekend episodes throughout the playoffs as well, so watch out for those weekend episodes. You might be hearing other voices that you have heard before, but you might be listening to some new voices here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. So, Florida Panther fans, enjoy this. And more importantly, let's make some memories. And in the meantime, if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast. You'll be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Don't forget to also follow the national show Locked On NHL and the Crosscheck NHL show with Andrew Berkshire and Mary Clark. Will be covering all the postseason activities around the National Hockey League. So I'm Armando Velez, signing off. And you've been listening to Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day.